Hi, Jeanne Streiff here today, and I am going to be showing you how to make this little mini journal board using the mixed media mini journals from Faber Castell Design Memory Craft. We're going to be using gelatos, we're going to be using some aquarelle watercolor pencils to do the flower. And let me start off with the background. I've already pre-blocked in a little color on here. I used gelatos in red cherry, bubblegum, mango, and raspberry. And all I did was scribble on some color and smudge with my finger. I added a little bit of water at the very end just to kind of get some lighter variations in the color. So my next step will be to take a stamp. This is from Impression Obsession and the magenta Stamper's Big Brush Pen. All I'm going to do is put some color directly onto my stamp with the brush pen. This is Indie ink, so it works well with watercoloring or any wet kind of medium. Just going to take this and like that way. It's just a little easier for me. And I'm just going to run it right along this edge. Give me a little bit of texture. Alright, my next step is to take a stencil. This is from Clear Snap, and I'm going to take a little gesso. I'm just going to use the stuff that's in the cap right now, and I'm not going to be really fussy about it. I just want a light dusting of white just to give it a little bit more texture. Hit some of the areas a little bit harder, some really, really light. Just want a simple. Lift up the stencil and you've got a little bit of coloring there. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute. Come back to that at the end here. My next step is I stamp this pretty flower. Again, I used the magenta Pit Artist Big Brush Pen and just scribbled my ink right on and then stamped it. Next we're going to be using the Faber Castell Art Grip Aquarelle pens. These are watercolor pencils. I'm sorry, these are watercolor pencils. We're going to start out with our lightest color. And just start blocking in some color. I'm going to add a little water directly on here, and I do one petal at a time. Just add a little color down at the base of my flower and then take my brush and move it. I'm going to add a little bit darker color. Get my brush. And just continue like this. I do one petal at a time, And I usually do petals that aren't touching each other. That way you don't have any bleed. So say my next petal, I'd come down here and add some water there. Come down here. And see, so you've created a space there, so nothing's going to bleed together. Now, this one I've got a little bit more of the way done here, so we can see a little bit better. Now I'm working on some real darker areas. So I'm going to move on to another color, and let me start up in here. I'm going to let that. I'll go really dark here. I'll just let that flow. You'll just continue on adding color until you get where you like it. I'm going to add a little bit of a more red. This is the, see if my eyes will work to see. This is the 123 pen. It's a pinky color, a little bit different than the more raspberry, real dark. I like to kind of vary the colors a little bit. So once you have your flower all shaded the way you want it, the final step on the flower is to come in, once again, this is the magenta Pitt Artist Stamper's Big Brush Pen, and you'll come in with the real dark areas and dab a little bit of ink on there, and then just smudge it with your fingers. I see how that makes a real dramatic go over the area we just did here, so we can really get a definition in that petal. As you can see how it gives that extra depth to the petals. Do one more, and then I'll show you a little closer on the finished flower. Here's my finished flower. So you can see all the definition in the different petals. So the next step I did was I cut out this flower. I've got my board here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this flower off just for placement, because I'm going to show you how I did my leaves. And all I did for that was take my Nougat Stamper's Big Brush Pen, and I'm going to draw out some simple leaves. These are really, really simple leaves, nothing fancy here. Just some leaf shapes wherever you think you might want a leaf. You don't have to be an artist to draw a few leaf shapes. Let's go more up here. Kind of tuck that behind that one. That'll give us enough. Now I'm going to start out with the pistachio gelato. I'm going to get a little color in there. smudge it a bit with my finger, and then I'm going to come back with a paintbrush. Bring it to the edges. Okay, so I've got that all spread around pretty good. Next I'm going to come back this is Margarita, nice yellow, it's pretty opaque too. Kind of fill in my leaves a bit. Now once the gelato is dry a little bit, it just takes a few minutes to kind of set, then you can come back with your big brush pen and add a little veining if you want. Now the only thing I did extra is I stamped a little phrase. I did that on some white paper separate, and then added it right to it, and I used the same Stamper's Big Brush pen in magenta again for this. Alright, that's my project. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.